Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, I want to talk about how to stop being triggered by an anxious partner or fearful leaning anxious. This is important because if you're triggered and your partner is anxious or fearful leaning anxious, they're going to probably behave in a way that triggers you, and now both triggers are happening and the relationship is not doing well. So that's what we're talking about today. We're not talking about if you trigger an avoidant. We're talking about triggering an anxious or fearful leaning anxious, okay? The first one is you want to separate their emotions from your responsibility. This is really hard. If anyone has been with anyone who is anxious or has friends who are anxious or parents or anybody, this is probably the most challenging one. You're not responsible for regulating their anxiety. And you don't, because what happens is if you feel like you're responsible, then you shut down if you are avoidant, right? Because what happens is you care, and so you feel like a failure because you feel like this is such an overwhelming aspect and you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what's happening, and you're absorbing it. And then what happens is you shut down because it's so much emotions. But if you can separate it from your responsibility, no longer will you need to shut down because you're not taking it, so you're not overfunctioning, at least inwardly. And you can still care. You can still say, you can in your mind mention that you want to respond calmly. You want to help them out. You can reassure them if needed, but you don't want to take it completely to your responsibility that you have to fix this. You need to calm them down. It's frustrating because they never listen to you. They're always asking these questions and you don't know what to do. It doesn't have to be anything to do with your responsibility. You don't have to do anything. You can be there and reassure them, but you don't have to resolve it. It's really, really, really important. The next one is you don't want to take their frequent need for reassurance as failure on your part. Because if you think it's failure, you're going to shut down, you're going to leave, maybe momentarily, or you might break up because you feel like you're such a failure. And what happens is then they think that you never liked them, and the relationship, if you ever want it to resolve, it's going to be really hard to. Rather, give them that reassurance, but mention that you're not really sure what to say, you want to help them, and you want to be there for them. That's really what helps. It's not always easy because sometimes they're anxious about so many things that you're not really sure what to say. Be honest with them, and that's a point we're going to touch on later. Regulate yourself before responding is the third one. It's really important. If you're already stressed, you already have had a bad day, it's really important to not take that out on your partner who is anxious. So if they're asking if you still like them or if you love them or whatever it is they're asking, right? And that's okay. It's important to regulate yourself before responding and being like, I do love you. Why do you always think that way? You're always judging me. Nothing I do is ever good enough. That's not fair to say either, right? I understand. I do understand it can be difficult, but it's not fair. And it's going to make things much difficult. So before you respond, pay attention to how you're feeling and what's bothering you about not just their statement, but about how you're feeling prior. So you might have had a really rough day, and so you're already maybe on the edge, and you can mention that to them. The next one is tell the truth instead of tiptoe around them. I think this one is really important. It's really hard. This one might be one of the most challenging ones on this list, but that might be from my personal experience. I have always tried my best to do this, but it is very, very hard. And I pride myself in someone who tries to be as honest as possible because I saw that my dad, when he would be around anyone who's anxious, like my mom, for example, he would avoid the truth to basically avoid her from crashing out. And all that would do is make it worse. And so I learned from that, even if that person is going to crash out or yell at you or say negative things or accuse you of things you're not doing, which are all triggers for avoidant people, by the way, you are avoiding that because you don't want to get yelled at, basically. Telling the truth does help in the long run. Even if at first it's hard and they're mad and they're yelling or they're anxious or whatever, you need to set boundaries because some anxious people do not realize how overwhelming they are and how difficult it can be to be with an anxious person. Just like it's difficult to be with an avoidant person, it's really difficult to be with an anxious person too. They're both insecurely attached. So secure is usually better to be with or easier typically. But anxious folks don't really like guessing what you're feeling or how you feel or what's going to happen. And what happens is if you lie and they believe that or they find out that you did lie, it's just going to make it worse and they're going to be more angry. They're going to trust you less. And so I would say tell them the truth, but you want to say it quite delicately. I'm going to give an example of something I saw recently in my personal life. So it's not like confidential or anything like that, even though I still won't say the details, but I'm not telling you about my patients and I never ever do. But I have a friend who's very, very anxious. And that's okay. But her boyfriend, or fiance now, is avoidant. And they've been together for a long time. And he does this. And I see it all the time, and she does not see it, that he does not fully say the truth. And then she, when he tries to tell the truth, because he says it in such like a indirect way, she almost like corrects him and like pushes over what he's saying. And I've seen him become more and more distant over their relationship. And I don't think it means he doesn't love her. He does. But I think that that's how he manages that relationship. And she's become more and more over functioning in that relationship. And so he might say, like she was mentioning, like I tell my friends all the time, how are you emotionally? How are you feeling spiritually? How are you connected with this person, that person? And she like really loves to connect with her friends, right? But sometimes, me included, we don't always have time. I always try to be like, I do communicate, but I don't always have time to sit there and be like, how am I feeling emotionally? How am I feeling physically? How am I feeling this? I don't have time. Like, I don't actually know. I really don't. Even if you ask me right now, I'm not sure. I'm fine. I'm busy. I'm happy, right? That's pretty much how I would respond. But I don't know if that's enough for her, so she'll keep pushing, and that's okay. I've known her for so many years that, like, I know how to talk to her in a certain way. But, like, I remember one time he was like, maybe the reason is because you come across too needy. And he said the word needy, but he said it like very almost like mouse-like, no offense to him. But he was like, maybe it's because you're a little bit needy. And then he like kind of like almost dropped it and like shut down. And then she's like, no, I'm not needy. I care a lot. I'm an empath. I'm this, I'm that, which is true. All of those things are true. But sometimes it does come across a little bit needy to some extent. And to be honest, it's not too bad if you're her friend, but I can tell that he feels like that about her. But I feel like what he should have done is he could have said it like this. I feel like sometimes you're a little over-functioning in our relationship, and so I think your friends might feel that way as well. That would be honest. And then she wouldn't have brushed it off. She had no idea that that's what he's feeling. I can tell that's what he's feeling. And he's kind of indirectly said it to like he said it to like the other guys. Like he tells it to the other men in our group, like our partners, like, sorry, I don't know how to explain it. Like the females are friends, right? And then the males are their boyfriends or husbands or fiancés or whatever, and they kind of talk. And so he has mentioned that a little bit. And so I'm aware a little bit that that's what's going on. It's not my place. But what I'm saying is, if you are an avoidant or someone who's with someone who's anxious, don't not tell them the truth, because they can't heal. Because she has no idea. I think she has some idea, but it's never direct. And I don't think that's fair. It's really not fair. The next one is you don't want to reward. You don't want, if they escalate with multiple texts, accusations, urgency, you don't want to match that intensity with like anger or detachment or telling them, that's why I don't like relationships. Don't do that. It's not healthy. It's going to make it much harder. You can say, I care about you. I don't mind talking about this, but I'd like to talk about it when it's in a little bit, when you're not coming at me like this or when you're not pressuring me, whatever you need to say. And the next one is you want to set boundaries with reassurance, okay? You can say, if I need space, it doesn't mean I'm leaving you. I can't text all day when I'm working, but I'll check in at lunch, something like that. And the last one is check your own attachment patterns. You might be someone who also has your own attachment patterns and you are triggering someone who's anxious. So let's go ahead and summarize. You want to separate their emotions from your responsibility. You don't want to take their need for reassurance as personal or a failure. You want to regulate yourself before responding. You want to tell the truth instead of tiptoe around them. You don't want to reward that escalation, because they don't understand. When they're triggered like that, they're going to take it as you reacting to something that maybe they didn't do, because you're also reacting, and it's going to just end up in a more poor situation. And you want to set boundaries with reassurance. And the last one is you want to check your own attachment patterns. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.